strengths and weaknesses of that.
Broadcasting from our station, spinning 3,900 feet above the watery sphere.
I can see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles.
This is Monitor Duty.
One of these days, I'm going to go ahead and redo that, and it's going to be even better. But that's not today.
But this is not this day.
Welcome to another Wednesday, to another episode of Monitor Duty. I am Reese signing on. How are you doing, guys?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing a little better, actually.
Good.
I'm doing better than that.
Oh, wow.
Well, hello to, in the chat, Isaac Larkin. Hello to Flying Saucer. And if he's still out there, Colin, hello to you as well. Hutch is deep in thought because
I'm deep in reading.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to read.
We had a bit of a
Hutch is doing his homework on the bus.
Yeah.
we had a bit of a wire crossing over the weekend, so
Overnight
was,
cram.
something like that.
The good news is that these comics are the ones we're looking at today. At least two of the ones we're focusing on are, I'd say they're pretty brisk reads for the most part, and so you can they're not major commitments. But
Well, of course,
um,
the Marvel. I can't remember which one is it. One of these you can actually just read like the first two and then skip everything that is not Spider-Man and Superman.
this is okay. So this is kind of a follow up to a show we did before, which was Deadpool Batman, which I actually learned was only half of that crossover, because both companies in that case did a one shot, and we basically read the I think it was the DC Marvel. I think we read the Marvel Deadpool
Marvel.
Batman one. And then DC also did a Batman Deadpool crossover, which I went and read. And by the way, we read the right one. The DC one was a headache in many cases.
Well, and I didn't read. I don't even remember. I remember we did it. I don't remember anything about it, like except that like Joker was in one of the stories or something.
So basically,
and I remember that there was a Captain America Wonder
Woman story. That was my favorite. That one was my favorite.
That was the only thing I kind of recall from it.
the title is a lie. It was DC Marvel crossover, and Deadpool Batman just happened to be the first one. In these, it seems, at least on large part, it is actually consistently Superman and Spider-Man universes crossing over, but there are times when they just completely forget about that.
Yeah, there's it's interesting. So, like I said, this new kickoff, and to give some context for everybody, DC, Marvel, two separate companies. Sometimes I have to make that very clear. DC has got, and again, you'd be surprised how people assume they're all the shared universe, and even people who are watching the movies will think that they're all part of the same thing. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Justice League are all a separate company with a whole separate universe, so like 100 years old practically. And Marvel is got all the MCU stuff, Spider-Man, obviously, the X-Men, the Hulk, all your Marvel Cinematic Universe mainstays. They have their own separate history. But, asterisk next to that, they have had a few actual important moments where they've had a shared history. And so going back to 1976, there was
That's right, ladies and gents. This is the 50th anniversary of the first in one of these books. They made a mention of it, and I was like, well, Sonny. I hadn't. Okay, I'm 48. This is not a big secret. I don't try to hide that from people. I know
you're younger than I thought.
I know 50 is right around the corner for me. I feel it every morning. This piece of pop culture being about as old as me, I was not prepared for that. That's the part that like just kind of kicked me in the gonads.
I remember the day I learned I was as old as Tetris.
Yeah, it's
Oh
interesting.
my god, are you serious?
It's interesting to find out. I'm as old as Watchmen.
Wow, okay, guys, shut the hell up.
I'm trying to think of what came out in 1970, and 1970 wasn't a big year for movies. 69 was like 2001: A Space
Well,
Odyssey, right?
I was gonna
You
say
know.
60. I mean, 69 was the moon landing. So if you just go back,
Yeah. So, but I can't think of what movie came out in 1970 that's worth mentioning. Sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, so this original comic, which is just barely 2 years older than I am, was the impetus, the 50th anniversary for this set of books that we read. And it is an all-star cast of things. You've got all sorts of people that are involved in all kinds of stuff with these projects. It's almost everybody you'd want to read a book from is in there, and it's a heck of a thing. So
a lot of famous names that I don't care about.
And there's a few people in there who I don't care for, but it's to be expected. Like if you're gonna do a as in the Marvel version of this, they do a obligatory Miles Morales stories. Obviously, they're getting Bendis for that one. So there's 3 pages of Bendis. This is the one you've got pulled up. This is the DC one, which I think is actually this one. I think is actually better overall than the Marvel one.
Yeah. And I see, and as we were talking about before the show, before you got here, is I'm not sure because Hutch was like, "Which one should I read?" And I was like, "I start with the DC one." So we'll probably talk about that one first.
Sure.
But the thing I found really frustrating is like, I don't know if I could pick one or the other because like both of them have hits and both of them have misses.
Yeah,
right?
That's fair. Yeah.
And I'm just like, so it's like I would read one of the things and I'd be like, okay, this story is fun, and then I flip the page and be like, well, that's balls. So it wasn't like, I mean, overall, I'm really glad that you suggested this, because some of these stories are really fun, but then there's some that are just like, I believe Matt Fraction hates me. I honestly, I honestly
Could
do.
be.
And it's really frustrating because like we'll talk about that story, but one of the things in our private chat is you're like, but it's fun, it's kind of funny, and I'm like, no, it's genuinely funny, but
I said it was funny but kind of mean.
yeah, it's kind of me. It's like I really think, not me personally. He doesn't know me personally, but there's that line from Mystery Science Theater in the 9th season, it's the 8th season. It's I hate you and all you stand for.
Yeah, it's Pearl. Yeah,
Pearl.
Oh,
Says
Mike.
that, right?
Yeah. Mike, remember? They had like a coffee together and they're being nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate you and all you stand for. So yeah,
Is that I think that's Time Chasers.
It might be
Might
Time
be.
Chaser.
I think it's Time
Let's
Chasers.
not
It's
get on
toward
an
the end of
MSP
season 8.
3K.
Okay, right.
conversation. You know that one end well.
Okay.
So anyway,
Okay. So can I mention what the reason I think the DC one edges it out, and it might be just edges it, is DC's version, the one we got pulled up, does a better job most of the time of telling complete stories with kind of beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
And the Marvel one does more of like this thing that this is something I kind of wanted to talk about with the panel later.
Vignetting.
It does this heavy, just like, it's not telling stories as much as telling aura and vibes. Here's a vibe of a story. You fill in the rest of the story in your head. I'm just going to tell you that a story is supposed to happen here. And that started to stick in my craw, especially with the Marvel one a bit. I'm like, no, you're the storyteller. You tell the story, darn it. Don't tell me here's where the story might go. You fill in the blanks yourself. And the DC one was like opening, setup, payoff, conclusion. I was like, that's what storytelling is. So I think the DC one edges it out for me, but I do agree that the hit and miss thing does happen in both. Completely.
The other thing I noticed is that both start out with one big, much longer story, and then like the rest seems to be about 3 to 4 page filler.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably how they were able to afford as many of the air quote big name people as they have. Before we get further, I want to go ahead and talk a little stuff for the chat. Jim Tuner is talking about how old the concept was. Says, please don't mention time stuff like that. It's painful. Isaac Larkin says 1970s movies were MASH and Patton. So there you go, Hutch.
Yeah. Patton's a good one. Yeah.
Patton's a good one.
Can't stand MASH.
I never saw the film MASH.
I
only
love the TV
series.
show. I went
TV
back and
series
watched
is
watched the movie, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's just, you can see why that guy just is not a good director.
It's
He gets-
Roger
he-
Altman, right?
Yeah, he's the Robert Altman.
Robert
yeah,
Altman.
he
Yeah.
makes
Well,
everybody talk over each other at the same
Yeah,
time.
we'll
and
be-
he's the one who
we'll be-
ruined Popeye. You know.
Well,
We'll be talking
Yeah.
about that next week.
So,
Hey, little preview of that for you there. Yeah.
little preview. Well, I said the crossover came out in '76. Was this obscure little movie called Rocky?
Yeah, it's an indie picture. You may not
Yeah,
have heard of it.
little indie picture. You might have heard of it. And yes, Superman the movie came out when Reese was born. This is a fact.
Oh, there you go.
So, anyway, enough of that. So, well, on the screen, a little demonstration of the Marvel universes, courtesy, or the different universes, courtesy of Cartoonicus.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
There are people in chat who that will be helpful.
And I do agree. What you're talking about, the vibes, and what I actually is the term I was using, is vignetting, right? They're
Mhm.
scenes, they're not stories,
Yeah.
right? And the thing about it is I do understand what you're saying with it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not storytelling that's being involved in all of that. Like I think specifically, the just to mention it here, we'll talk about it more. But the Lana Lang, Gwen Stacy conversation,
I like that one. That was good.
right? It's not really a story in the strictest, beginning, middle, and end sense, right? But because of the context, it's the high context that goes into this whole thing, it still comes across as very poignant. But we'll talk.
I think if
Make that
it might have stuck the landing better for me if they had, because even the main story in the Marvel book, it starts it's in medias res towards the conclusion of it, and it's like they basically start at.
I do agree with that one for sure.
And so it's like the whole book. I'm like, I don't feel like I got a full story, the whole thing through. And so the DC one did a better job. Like I said, I think multiple times of doing the proper structural setups. And so it feels at a certain point, if you're just telling emotions and not stories, in my opinion, I start to lose my connection to what I'm reading. At a
that
point,
makes sense with it as an anthology too, right?
yeah.
So when you have these one or two little page hits, that's that I think perhaps is more forgivable to do more of the vibe. Although there were a couple of them that I got real mad that when I turned the page, it was over. Right?
Because it's also Jeff Johns actually he had a short amount of time, and this is in the Marvel book, and he took on way more than he could chew.
Yes.
But he did in fact try to also do a more completed-ish thing. There was an attempt there, I'd say.
Well, let's talk in a little bit and kind of glaze over, or
Yeah.
kind of run through the DC book a little. Mark
did
Waid's
DC one first?
story,
Okay.
is it's a nice little. I think it's a nice little tidbit. It is a standard crossover. The villains show up.
Brainiac and
Octavius,
Dr. Octopus and Brainiac.
And in Brainiac, Dr. Octopus is just kvetching that nobody remembers him as a real scientist because he's been painted as a villain. So everybody underappreciates his brilliance. But now one of the great things they do world building, according that he's asking his AI companion, said, who's the most public leader in cyber robotics? And they say, according to online sources, Dr. William Magnus is considered. And he's like, oh!
You know what's
So-
funny is this is basically the evil queen asking her magic mirror.
Yes.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah.
I want to interject something here real fast. So, this is something that was not adequately addressed in the Batman Deadpool crossover, especially the one from DC that Grant Morrison wrote. But in the Superman Spider-Man, and this goes back to the 1976 and the 80s one that followed, and I think both of these are doing a pretty good job of this particular concept. As opposed to when you're dealing with two completely separate universes, you have a couple of choices. One of the choices is to have a multiversal crossover where some cosmic entity smashes them together, and that makes sense for certain things.
JLA Avengers.
And they did that.
Yeah.
So that's been done. But in the Superman Spider-Man crossovers, what they did all the way back with Carmine Infantino and Stan Lee back in 1976 is they said we're going to ignore that they're two separate continuities, and we're just going to pretend like these universes have been the same.
Right.
And that Peter Parker and Clark Kent are both journalists who vaguely know each other. And we're not going to we're going to ignore any potential continuity kerfuffle. We're just going to pretend that in this story box, they're all in the same boat. And that's actually a really great way to do it because you could just jump right on in. You don't have to have 20 pages of them figuring out alternate universe garbage. It's literally just pretend that they all exist in the same spot. And the people who I think wrote these crossovers, as far as I can remember, understood that assignment. But in the Batman Deadpool one, not all of them did. And so there were a couple stories that stumbled over that rake, but these don't. They just say, hey, they're all in the same universe. We're going to pretend they could all run into each other at any time and that we don't have to play any other weird continuity games. Just accept that they're all in the same universe, move on, and let's just see what fun we can have. And I do like that that's the approach they took with these.
And one of the things that I think is so fun about it is it was full of Easter eggs. So if you're an old-time fan, then you could pick up on those Easter eggs, and it's fun. And it's not really member berries because they're not like they don't dwell on them. I don't feel they fall into that, like the Magnus thing, right? For those of you guys who might not remember, Will Magnus invented the Metal Men, right? So
which we did a show on.
we did a couple of shows on the Metal Men. So go back and watch the archives. And
I love the Metal Men, so I got giddy at that little mention.
Yeah. It was great. But so it's that kind of stuff. So it's kind of these kind of somewhat deep cuts of stuff that they tie in it. The other thing that I thought was really great about it is comparing that approach with when we did Justice League Sonic, right? DC Sonic a few months ago, and how that universe crossover doesn't explain the differences of the universe. It just reads them into the story. So you don't have to. So it's not. So the crossoverliness. It's not all part of one universe, but they don't have to expound all of that either. That they're able to work it into the flow of character interactions, so it feels really seamless. So I thought it was really well done.
So what you're saying is they trust their audience to know something.
They're trusting the suspension of disbelief, definitely. And in this case, I think it works. I want to address something Jim Tuner says, though. He says, I never thought that Superman and Spider-Man were good crossovers. I'm going to push back on that a little. I agree that if you're going with power level, it can be a bit awkward, but I think that the inventiveness of some of the writers have covered that. But although I do concede that in terms of their power levels, sometimes you might see them not being natural fit. But when it comes to the type of character, I think there's so many interesting overlaps and connections that you can tease out. The fact that they work in journalism, but they do different parts of journalism. They're not just journalists. Parker is specifically a photographer. Clark is a reporter or an anchor in some cases. So you're getting these different nuances in journalism, and just the scenes that you can sometimes play with how Parker interacts with Perry White, or how Clark can interact with Jameson, just in their alter egos, is fascinating stuff, because you get these different connections with just the journalism part. Again, what we see on this page right here. So, and then when it comes to how they both became superheroes and how they both face challenges, you get some interesting things to explore. And ultimately, if you boil down Marvel Comics to emotionally one character and only one character, you're probably going to come up with Spider-Man. And if you boiled DC down to one character, it'd be Superman. So it kind of like makes sense thematically that they would show up. So those are the reasons why I do think that there is some fittingness to them being put together.
Yeah, and the other thing is interesting, I think, too, is, and it's played with in these stories a few times, Spider-Man is not a joiner, right? In fact, he part of his whole shtick is that he doesn't really belong anywhere. He's trying to figure that out.
I am going to
Superman-
challenge that because of Civil War.
Civil War doesn't exist.
That's true.
We also did a show on Civil War. Check that archive out.
We've done many on Civil War. But Superman is also somewhat of a loner. However, he owns every space that he goes into, right? Because he's got that magnanimous character, and he's not standoffish. He simply belongs everywhere he goes. And that's one of the things that's so interesting about Superman as a character is that he is that Spider-Man can belong with Superman because everyone belongs with Superman. So I think it gives it an interesting interplay between them for that. So
Right.
there's been stealing. There's been something stolen from Star Labs, and they find out that they're using neutrinos. Star Labs are using neutrinos to try to be a data transmission system. They're multiplexing signals across neutrinos, which, for those of you who don't know, neutrinos are particles that have so little mass they pass at extremely high speeds through matter, right? That's the thing everybody does, Pete says here. And so what makes yours so special? And then the redheaded scientist says, "Oh, we're using kryptonite neutrinos."
Bum bum bum. You can see where this is going. Actually, you know what is interesting is that Mark Waid, when Mark Waid isn't being insufferable, this is the thing that frustrates me because Mark Waid has talent, and when he's not being insufferable, he knows how to like spin a yarn, and so you get this interesting plot where Brainiac is obviously working with Dr. Octavius, and Brainiac's obviously all in it for himself, but Brainiac's whole plan is to not do he does something kind of unique. And the idea is that Brainiac has been poisoned. He has basically a data corruption. And in order to purge his system, he needs to basically download, do like a computer maneuver thing where he downloads all of his data into a bunch of mines and then cleans them up. So he's going to do a data dump, but Brainiac's so big, he's going to data dump into
the planet Earth.
Right, planet Earth. So he's gonna dump a bunch of junk data into everyone on planet Earth's mind, which is gonna crash their system. He's gonna crash everybody's brain on Earth. He doesn't care, and he's gonna go and purge himself.
He doesn't know what's gonna happen to people. He's discovered that humans are really good at dealing with random crap in their brains, and so they seem to be the ideal component to do this. So here's the thing about the story from a science fiction perspective, right? This neutrino multiplexing isn't real, right? But it's theoretically possible, right?
It sounds real enough.
It sounds real enough. So Mark Waid invented like a science fiction device that is plausible, and then found a way to be Superman's to be kryptonite, to play into this thing, and then gave a reason for all of it. This is a really fun Silver Age feeling science fiction adventure.
It's pretty good,
right?
Yeah, I agree. This one in terms of storytelling, I think this one is my favorite.
This may be one of the best Superman stories I have read in the last decade. I mean, just conceptually anyway. Maybe not in terms of all of his execution, because I really like some of Josh Williams stuff.
Yeah.
Williamson, whatever it is. But in terms of like conceptually, like, man, I'm back to being like 12 years old reading my cousin's long box finds from the garage sale, right?
Yeah.
This is super fun. And there it is. And so he gets Otto Octavius because he needs somebody who's got this expertise in both nanotechnology and in radiation to put the tiny pieces together. Because Brainiac, his brain's not working because of the technovirus, because of the data virus, and so he gets Otto Octavius, who just loves to have his ego stroked. And so it's like the match made in hell. It's great.
It's also a good. It's a good nod because the 1976 crossover was Lex Luthor and Doctor Octopus. So without repeating the exact same note for note, it's still doing a nod in a way to that 50-year anniversary.
Well,
They-
it's
so they-
kinda
yeah.
used the geniuses too. Oh well, yes, Luther is a genius, but
Yeah, but they didn't just go exact same. They're like it rhymes with the story from 50 years ago without repeating it beat for beat.
you know what it is? Octopus is a man who's part machine. Brainiac is a machine who's part man.
Oh, there you go.
Damn,
Ooh,
that's
deep.
another rhyme. I like it. So the basically everybody gets their that and because they're using neutrinos that are friggin' kryptonite.
Kryptonite. Yeah.
Superman's weakened, like just mildly weakened because he's having all these subatomic particles blasting through his body constantly. And so Spider-Man and Superman have to use each other's abilities to kind of compensate for one another, and they're all both being affected by the brain scans and a whole business. And so Superman's slowly being kryptonite poisoned, and it's just really fun. And of course, they pull it off. They swap villains like every good crossover is, and they find a way to do it. And then
the Skull ship shows up, but it's like none of it feels forced. A story. I'm gonna one of the least favorite ones in these two comics. Nothing feels super forced. It all feels kind of natural, which is again kind of an achievement that this mashing two universes together like silly putty, and yet making it feel kind of natural.
Well, and here's another moment. They play on this moment in a couple different stories, but there's this famous scene of Spider-Man under rubble, right? And pulling himself out from. This was a little member berry, I think, but it has in this story. It still has gravitas because he's got to get to the switch to turn off the kryptonite ray, basically, right? So Superman can keep them from all crashing the Skull ship into Earth, and at the last second, of course, they pull it off, and it's just I found it really fun. This was super fun for me. I don't know. Did you get a chance to read this one, Hutch, as you were yakking?
Yeah. I that was the first one I read. So yeah, I read it, and it's I've told you before. I don't really know what the status is of Brainiac in the current universe and all that, and I like Brainiac as a character, but they've done so many things with him that I don't know what his status is. Is he all computer? Is he part person, like you say? I don't. They've varied his origin so many times. I don't really know what his goals are, what he's trying to do. But his crossover with Doc Ock was kind of interesting because then they cross each one takes on the other character in the fight. Instead of it's like Brainiac is fighting Spider-Man. And I found that interesting. So, I don't know about you notice how when Superman's like flying towards the skull ship, the skull has its jaw wide open, like it's happy or something, or like it's going to eat him. I don't know. It's a weird look, for his, but I don't know what the current status is of the skull ship. So, I know the one from the 80s and they kind of brought it back in the 90s a bit, but I don't know what. I like Brainiac with a character, but I just don't know what current. I haven't read DC Comics regularly since Convergence way back when. So yeah, it's and it was kind of the same thing. I was just losing touch with the universe, and they kept changing continuity. So, but as far as reading this without, it's like. You don't have to have any continuity for this because it's not in continuity.
Right.
So it's easier to get along with these, but I'll bring that up again when we talk about one of the stories that one of the smaller stories in this collection here. There's the one with the Superboy Prime, is interesting, but it's like the last I saw of Superboy Prime, he was like a universe killer, And he's kind of a joke.
They're trying to rehab him right now.
They're making him a Deadpool. I got to mention something Sad Robot brought up. Okay, can you pull up the panel that addresses Doc Ock versus Clark has serious atom bomb versus coughing baby vibes? Well, they turned this around because Doc Ock, this was actually a cool moment. Doc Ock says, you know what? I'm fighting Superman, and this is a shared universe, so I'm coming prepared. He has kryptonite tentacles. That's a pretty cool looking visual.
There is one thing
Yeah.
that annoys me though about the Superman crossovers always end up like this. He's so powerful. The only way to make the crossover work is always to power him down in some way.
Yeah.
Either
Sure.
Everybody has
or red
kryptonite. Yeah.
bloodline or- right.
So I'm going to make a nod to 1976. This is something that made me appreciate 1976 because in the 1976 crossover, they actually, and this actually gives a nod to the fact that they were a little more nuanced. Kryptonite is not what they use really. Instead, Lex, because in 1976 the comic was actually called Spider-Man versus Superman, so they had the classic misunderstanding fight. How are you going to have Superman and Spider-Man fight and not do
Right.
kryptonite? And so Lex Luthor is like, haha, I'm gonna mess this metal, and so he zaps Spider-Man with some red sunlight radiation.
Yeah.
So this does not technically depower Superman as much as it makes it so that Spider-Man's punches can impact him. And so it kind of evens the playing field for a few pages. And so they went a little deeper into the toolbox and didn't
The
just
thing that
they
makes that
didn't
work
didn't
is
just
that
pull out.
like you said,
kryptonite.
it was just for that one fight to get them, started.
Yeah.
But usually it would just be like, okay, so we're gonna make this thing take place on a red sun so that Batman and Superman can be equal. It's just like if you have to literally reinvent Superman in order to make him work, you've got a problem.
I think, like I said, I think that part of this is that because you're dealing with a mashed up universe, kryptonite is part of the I think some writers may see it as, kryptonite is literally in public consciousness. It's so much into public consciousness, people will sometimes forget that kryptonite was made for Superman, because it's part of it's like a common word. So I think some writers go, oh, well, I don't want to have to go deeper into the toolbox because I only have a few pages to explain things. But I do agree that they should go back and not just rely on the green rocks to balance the story.
But what I'm saying is green rocks, spread sunlight, geothermal, whatever. There's a million different ways that they
Magic.
have of powering him down, but it's always the same. They have to power him down. You literally have to reinvent your character from what he's supposed to be because he doesn't work with anybody.
It's funny you say that the kryptonite's become a generic thing because Brad Meltzer's story for Marvel is all about what is your kryptonite? And it's for Superman, it is kryptonite.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, yeah, I get what you're saying about having to bring him down in power, but it's like if you didn't team him up with Spider-Man, who's basically a tough human,
Right?
it's like if you teamed him up with the Hulk, then you wouldn't have to knock down Superman to have them both go up against something else.
Right.
But it's the same with Batman and Superman. He can't really fight Superman unless he, takes down his superpower out of the equation, something like that. So
I don't necessarily think that's bad storytelling. I do think it's
Right.
I think it's a challenge, and it's a challenge you have to face. And I think that it challenges, it demonstrates writing quality when you're able
Yeah.
to find creative ways to come up with ways
Well,
around
Dr.
it.
Octopus is a genius, and he knows that he's going to be taking on Superman. He knows he's not up to that challenge, so he goes and he gets kryptonite. That makes sense to me. That doesn't actually seem a stretch at all, any more than Lex Luthor would need kryptonite.
Yeah.
And I don't know the status of kryptonite because, of course, way back when it was a very rare thing on Earth. After the Silver Age, where it was everywhere, in the Bronze Age, by the Bronze Age, every hoodlum had a lump of kryptonite in their pocket in case they ran into Superman. And then they got rid of it, and then they brought it back. They keep doing this. They keep making it super rare, and then everybody has it, and then super rare. Yeah, so
It's like power creep, but the opposite.
It's so rare
Yeah.
that everyone has it.
yeah.
But
This is
no,
great. Good evening, gents. I guess we're crossing the streams of DC and Marvel. Both have teamed up to fight the most evil enemy, bankruptcy.
he also said Doc Ock must be popular in Japan. To which Sad Robot said, "Shut up."
I saw that. I did see that.
Colin says every hoodlum in Metropolis also got cancer at once and died from the neutrinos, the kryptonite neutrinos. Oh gosh, don't think about it. So okay, there's more stories to talk about. So let's keep things moving.
Yeah, we gotta keep a move on.
I do have to mention, I did like the threat here where Brainiac is like trying to use. I skimmed it very fast, so
Yeah.
I did not catch all of it. But I get that Brainiac is trying to use all the humans as like a storage device, and they are not up to it, and he's killing people. And
Yeah.
I love
it
that.
says.
That Spider-Man is like not in the mood to joke around because he is killing people, and he just wants. He gets right to the fact.
I was
have to
annoyed
turn
that he
this
was
off,
killing people.
What's that?
I was
There-
annoyed that it was killing people.
He's hurting them. They don't actually die. No one actually.
no,
Some
Superman
do
says
die.
they did.
Did they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're saying that it's lethal because they weren't able to stop them because it's shutting their brains down, so it's shutting their bodies down.
I thought some of the ones we saw on page at least were like they were like clearly in critical condition, but not actually dead.
I think it's on both, but
Okay.
that was how I was reading it. But yeah,
They had
it was.
to make it a problem they had to stop, or else Brainiac could have just done it and been on his way.
He does escape. Dr. Octopus does not. But Dr. Octopus gets a little bit of recognition because I think it was a Superman who says, "I remember you," and Dr. Octopus is like, "Really?"
Yeah, I once read a news article that Clark Kent wrote about you from years and years ago.
By the way, did anyone else think that they were deliberately trying to draw Ock to look like Alfred Molina?
Yes.
Yeah, very
I
much
did
so.
think so. Which is great because it was the best part about that movie. I like that movie, but that was the best part about it.
For all I know, they've been doing that in the comics for the last 25 years. I mean,
I wouldn't be
DC Comics always does that. Whatever actor is playing Jonathan Kent in the current media, they change the Kents to look like the current Kents. So
You know what? To this day, no matter what he looks like, I cannot read Alfred without hearing Michael Caine's voice.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right, so we got a few of these. We're gonna need to breeze through them. We got
You don't have to
Lois.
breeze through 'em here.
We have
So-
Lois Lane and Mary Jane, Superboy
And I gotta tell
Prime,
ya, yeah, it
Superboy
can
Prime and Amazing Spider-Man, Superboy Spider-Man 2099, Jimmy Olsen meets Carnage,
yeah, I like that one.
Jonathan Kent and Ben Parker by Jeff Lemire.
Yeah.
We've got the Daily Planet and the Daily Bugle, and then finally wrapping up with a total one of left field, Gail Simone with Power Girl and Punisher. This is the DC attempt at this. So I think we need to breeze through them so we can hit the Marvel rendition of this. So I would just going down the panel, which of these stood out that someone wants to talk about? We can go there and talk about it so we can keep things
Definitely
moving.
want to talk about Lois and MJ.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the next one.
It's
Superboy Prime.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
All right.
And I can skip the next one completely. The Jimmy Olsen and Carnage one, we can't skip it because
No, we know you're right.
Yeah, we have to talk
we have
about
to, we have to talk about that one.
And I thought the bias one was interesting. Who wrote it though? I don't know who.
Greg
wrote it.
Rucka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, surprising. It was okay. It wasn't great, but it was an interesting idea.
Should we have the audience vote on one?
No, I think we should because let's start with just going down. Like
I only
someone
want to say a couple of things, so it's okay.
So Lois Lane and Mary Jane, someone wanted to talk about. So whoever wanted to talk about that one, say your bit.
Okay. Darn, wasn't expecting to be put on the spot like that. Now, you want to talk about not powering down Superman. They do not. He's just fighting a giant robot in this. The giant robot is apparently really, really powerful because he's standing up against the guy who can move the earth. So,
This
Okay.
is written by Tom King. Important thing to note on there.
This was Tom King. Oh, you're right. This one was, as far as Tom King goes, this wasn't that bad.
that's
Yes.
interesting. I should have
However-
known because, you know why? Because I found myself both loving and hating the dialogue.
Yeah, there you go.
I agree. So the premise is that there's a Sentinel, and oh my god,
It's a super sentinel.
it's a super Sentinel, and they're going after somebody. They don't know who, and that's a plot point in there. But the Lois and Mary Jane, also side note, Tom King, I want to hate this story just out of animus, but the implication is that Peter and Mary Jane are still together. That one more day did not happen in this story.
So we have to give him props for
We
that.
have to give him props for that.
Jim Leon art, by the way. So
Yeah, Jim Leon art, Scott Williams on inks. So it's a classic combo. But What the heck with the fastball special? Guys, can we stop that? Can we stop that?
No.
The whole story it is Mary Jane and Lois talking about their relationships with their respective superheroes, and they know each other's secret identities for the sake of this story. So they're talking about it back and forth. And like they've met before or whatever. And they're talking about what, the hang-ups and difficulties, and it's all Tom King relationship malarkey stuff. It's not bad because it is used to punctuate the action that's going on, right?
Also punctuating the strengths of their relationships, and
Yes.
they do it without demeaning the powerful men in their lives.
Yep.
So like this is walking
Which
the
is-
line
which is-
of. It sounds like how real wives would talk to.
Yes.
I'm honestly amazed
So-
at the Tom King, comic. I didn't even realize that. You considering how like they actually dealt with the female characters, didn't like make them toughies who saved the day or anything, have them actually in love with their boyfriends. Like,
Yeah.
Well, and-
Evie from chat says this does not pass the Bechdel test.
No, it does not. Lois and her pen pal from New York do girl talk. Action Comics.
Yeah.
But yeah. So here's the funny thing about this is like, it is this slice of life from the girl's perspective, and Tom King is writing a slice of life story, but it's happening in the middle of an actual action story that has stakes, and both sides of the story are serving the purposes of the other sides of the story. This I want to hate this so badly for my own personal reasons, but I can't not say that this is the kind of story Tom King should be writing.
yeah,
Right.
Right?
If he did more of this, we'd probably have less to complain about.
Actually doing the things he's good at doing, and it's so surprising. And unlike his writing of Batman, and unlike his writing of Wonder Woman, nobody is being demeaned,
Yeah.
or cheapened in the
right.
whole story.
Yeah. That's what I said.
And
There's so many things I was amazed at in general that I was seeing from a modern comic, and then you said the word name Tom King. Now I'm just blown away.
Right.
And there's a fun little joke going on here too that I love, and that is the idea that, especially if we go back to that first page and see them hanging and everything, that when you live in a superhero universe, and especially when you are the girlfriend of like the two biggest superheroes, stuff like this happens all the time, and you're just not even fazed by it anymore.
Yeah, it's just a
being
Tuesday.
kidnapped, being in danger, it's like, goes with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep I think that's a good place to end on that
The
one.
Sentinel is there chasing down Gambit.
Right,
I
yeah.
was not
Saved the day.
expecting Gambit. That came out of nowhere.
Gambit gets
Yeah.
a double page spread.
He
But it's
shows up
classic. It's classic '90s Gambit. Jim Lee probably had a black. Jim Lee probably demanded that page. You're gonna make. You're
Gambit
gonna.
shows up in 4 panels. It counting the 2-page spread as a single panel. He's in 4 panels.
Yeah.
So that's
So Gambit's there too. The next story, the best thing I can say about it is it's way too meta. And this is what if you didn't read the DC Batman Deadpool story crossover comic, the one that especially that Grant Morrison did, that is what this story here is a lot like what that one was.
So I'm going to be honest here.
Super meta.
I skipped over this one entirely because I just hate Superboy Prime with such a passion.
Yeah, that's fair.
so
I'm not even gonna. I'm not
here's
gonna
the
follow
thing
you on
about
that.
this. I think that Christopher Priest,
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Priest, either writes just nonsense or they're some of the best comics ever, and I can't decide which this is. So the setup is it's 1986, right? 87, and Superboy Prime, is he reaches into the comics to get, Black Suit Spider-Man. He's trying to get the symbiote because he's being hunted down by the High Evolutionary, and so he's not sure if he's a hero or a villain. And they basically decides he can't let Spider-Man face off against the High Evolutionary himself, and he decides to be a hero, and that's the end, right? But there's this framing sequence where it's happening between dimensions, where they're actually living in the pages of a pan-dimensional series of comics.
Superboy Prime says you're a character in a comic book I read. And what they've been doing, just to catch Hutch up, what they've been doing with Superboy Prime in mainstream DC is making him very Deadpool-esque. He breaks the fourth wall. He's making nods that break the fourth wall. He's making references that break the fourth wall. They're making him very. It's almost like they want to make him kind of Deadpool light, and it's like you don't need to do that. You already have Ambush Bug, and you've got well, crap. Who's the one we just read?
On top of everything, now
Heckler?
they're trying.
Yeah, we had the Heckler. There's like a whole cadre of like meta humor people. We don't need to add one more to the mix. But that's what they're doing with Prime right now. And I don't care for it.
And it okay. And within Superboy Prime, it kind of makes sense in the big picture, because like in the pre-crisis world Superboy Prime came from, he was supposed to be the one superhero from Earth Prime, which is our Earth, right? And so he was reading comics that Julie Schwartz and Carmine Infantino were putting out,
Right.
and then it was his favorite thing ever. And then he discovers he suddenly has powers. He wasn't an alien. He just wound up having powers, and so he was the one hero from our Earth. He's supposed to be
he
from our Earth.
is a Kryptonian.
Oh, is he Kryptonian?
Yes,
Yeah.
he teleported to Earth instead of being
okay.
in a rocket. Yeah.
I guess I
And-
did not understand that part. But
yeah.
but he was supposed to be from our Earth, right? And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so the idea that these are all comics to him makes sense, because they were comics to him in his own stories,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so he would sometimes fly by the building where like the DC editorial where E. Nelson Bridwell would be typing at a keyboard, or a typewriter, right? So
I don't know that's that's possibly a story that they have worked up, because what happened back in the day, I read this DC Comics Presents, is that he finds out he has Superman's powers and he meets Superman and the crisis happens. It's like, it's that fast. He has no adventures on real Earth as Superboy before this happens. And then you've seen what happens in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So that's the entirety of his thing. So he was not hanging around our Earth doing a lot of stuff unless they have backdated some story for him,
So-
that he did so, because
Right.
that's not the real history. If I could say a thing, because this is the story I wanted to talk about, and so far you guys have not let
oh,
me
I'm
in yet.
sorry. I didn't keep track of
This
who
is-
said what. I've just been going.
Yeah. This is the the big problem for me is that the last I saw of Superboy Prime, he was ripping off people's arms, he's
Thank
killing people,
you.
he's deleting entire universes,
Uh-huh.
and now they're using him as like a joke.
They're
And
reha-
it's
they're
like, I'm
rehabbing
sorry,
him, yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's like we've decided to have fun with Hitler since Hitler still exists, and now that we've done the big thing where he's a big menace, now it's fun with Hitler. It's like you can't salvage this character as a joke unless you have invalidated that whole what was it, Final Crisis that he
Yep.
was in. Yeah.
So
Crisis and like
If
the
I-
next 20 years.
if I
Yeah,
may,
yeah.
our friend, our friend Williamson, I think, is partly to blame for this. He is all heart, and so in his mind, the way he's kind of been framing it, from what I remember from reading Action or Superman, the reintroduction of Superboy Prime is it's another moment for Williamson, because Williamson has been rehabbing most of Superman's rogues gallery on some level, including Doomsday. We're giving Doomsday feelings now. And so like, well, if Doomsday can have feelings, well, then so can Superboy Prime, and Superboy Prime can have moments to start to redeem himself. And part of that redemption is him doing some somewhat selfless acts. And the other thing that he started to do is be less edgy boy murderer and more just like kind of quippy cynic. But that's kind of the approach that's been taken. I would argue and say that if we can rehab Hal Jordan, I mean, in theory, we could rehab just about anybody.
Yeah, but they rehabbed him by having a monster be in charge of what he did. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean that's not really the same thing.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
he is the guy who maybe, it would almost make sense if he had this attitude that these are all comic books and they don't really exist, and his wiping out people, they aren't people, they're drawings. And the way he's like flying around through comic books, like you can see panels, and he tells Spider-Man, don't attach your web to the upper panel, go to the end. It's like he's actually seeing comic books. It's like that. But I assume that they have essentially rewritten this character a bit. That, yeah, he still has some of the, how we've been talking about how you keep what of the past you like, and then you jettison whatever you don't like. They're kind of doing that with him, because that's the only way you can make it work as a character is maybe rewrite him a bit and say, he didn't murder all these universes, or something. Because, I mean, he killed how many Green Lanterns?
Yeah, that's true. No, I don't like Superboy Prime really, so I don't have much else to say other than this story annoyed me. It got so meta. I'm so tired of meta stuff. Just like the story where it was just Dr. Octopus, Superman, Spider-Man having an adventure. That's where I want to be. You can take your meta stuff and just put it somewhere else.
I did think it was funny that he's like, I saw this book called Secret Wars where you had this costume that it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but to just go on with all this stuff where he's flying in and out of comic books, it was like too much. I didn't enjoy that.
If you're going to do this, why didn't they use Miles Morales instead of Spider-Man? Because he's got the whole Spider-Verse. At least there'd be a connection there, multiple universes.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. But then he wouldn't have the whole. I mean, Miles Morales came out after Superboy was reading comic books in his universe. So,
but you're talking about universes, though.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you put on like Spider-Noir, Like,
all right, let's move on. Let's move on. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this.
The one thing I want to say about it is I actually appreciated the framing of going through the comics themselves. I thought that was interesting, but I didn't feel like enough was done with it to justify the device. Right. I think this is one of those that was like it either needed to be less or more. I was unhappy with how this ended out here.
Hey, if anybody's interested, check out the what I believe was the finale of Gwenpool.
Okay, I'm not going to say much about the story except for the fact that I like 2099 as a concept. So seeing 29 represented, I love Doom 2099, which I do reference slightly, but don't have much else to say about that except for this is another one where it's just more of a setup for a story than a story.
That was the most thing I found irritating about it. Is first of all, you've got these two voices that are talking about everything they're seeing. You're seeing Miguel O'Hara and a young Clark going through all of the things, and it's just sort of the Marvel misunderstanding set up. But then all of a sudden, Batman shows up. Batman
Beyond.
Batman Beyond, and I was like, obviously that's what's going on. I didn't think thought that was telegraphed really obviously. And then they have more fighting, and then they're like, oh, we have to go stop this future thing, and then they go off to it, right? So it's one of these things where it's like, okay, this is not a story. Yeah. This is a pitch, right?
Yeah, no, it's a pitch for a story, absolutely.
And it was really irritating. Now this is Sean Murphy. Right? Why didn't they just let Sean Murphy tell this story? Why are we seeing the first 6 pages or 4 pages or whatever of something else? I was super unhappy with the way it ended. It's not a quality of what is there. It's the fact that there isn't anything else, and there needs to be something else for this to be worth having read.
Yeah. It's a shame because I love Batman Beyond.
No, they just didn't do anything with it. So that's
and as you're probably going to say later, it's like this is pretty much what defines the other version.
Yes. Yes. But we do have to keep it moving. So
now this was bizarre.
Jimmy Carnage.
So I know Hutch wants to say a bit about this, so we'll make sure he has a chance to. So this was the story just
Matt Fraction, by the way.
Matt Fraction. This is the story that I said was funny but mean, and this is the story that Reese said was I think Matt Fraction hates me. Yes. So maybe let's just tease that out while we're waiting for Hutch to get back. Why do you think Matt Fraction hates you in particular?
Well, it's not me in particular. It's the architect of what I am, and I can't even explain it until we get through the thing, because we're going to spoil the hell out of the story, right? Because there's no way to address it other than that.
Yeah, it's true.
The setup is that Jimmy has moved to New York, and that Jimmy is got a job at the Daily Bugle, right?
Which at
And
first I
so-
was like, okay, cool, that's a neat idea.
And so I can't remember who the eye patch man is, but he's bored or dead. And here's Pete just not even paying attention. And you've got J. Jonah Jameson. Bring me pictures of Spider-Man or you're fired. Which seems really out of place. Or maybe not. Here on the back of it, we've got a poster that says "Always be capturing photographs of Spider-Man." Right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, so this image of JJ is, if you've never read a Spider-Man comic and you've only seen memes on the internet, then this is what you know about Jameson.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what some of this is great for people who aren't longtime readers of superhero comics, because it's doing that. It's basically playing with even the kryptonites, like things that people know. You don't need a lot of outsider knowledge. You can kind of pick this up and go, you've either picked this up from movies, TV shows, the one comic book you've seen ever in your life, general osmosis of pop culture. Jameson hates Spider-Man and is angry and says, "You're fired." So like, we're channeling the vibes.
So
Does he really
Yeah.
hate Spider-Man though? I think he's secretly loves
So
him.
Is
we've
that
got
guy supposed to be Peter Parker, the one who's
the yawning guy and the
Yeah.
guy
Yeah.
that he's
He looks
taking off
nothing
with
like
Betty
Peter
Brant
Parker.
I
and
would
with
have not have put
Gwen
that
Stacy at the
together.
same time.
Mm.
So is instead of Parker being, this is one of the things, so instead of Parker being a lovable loser, right, being that hard luck, Parker luck guy, no, he's Mr. Rico Suave walking off with two chicks.
Oh, okay. So this is an alternate.
So this is an alternate take on all, because they were really trying to point out how Jimmy doesn't belong here, right?
Okay.
And so he's saying Manhattan's great, don't go any blind alleys, and it's Spider-Man, don't just say Spider-Man.
That's
Yeah.
So
right.
that whole thing,
Or people will know that you're a tourist if you say
people know that
Spider-Man.
you're a tourist, and that's a thing. And so then here he is, he's walking down, he's like, oh look, they said go looking for the goopy red guy, and then you'll find somebody. And here he is. So Jimmy, just blind, stupid Jimmy. You thought, that dumb ginger bastard. He's just walking through the big city, because the Metropolis isn't a big city, so they made him like a rube, just some hick from the sticks.
Yeah.
He's not ready for Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
And so then here he is. He sees this red scoopy webs, and he runs down the blind alley. And who does he see? Oh, look, it's Carnage. Oh, God help me, Jimmy says. And here, listen to this. You guys gotta hear this. I'm gonna load this up here. So I can read it.
Do we have to?
See if I can zoom in. Oh, it's not gonna let me zoom
It's
in
really
here any
hard.
further.
Yeah.
You want me to read it?
Here we go. It says, what God is there to whom you pray, Jimmy Olsen? What sheltering hand of which benevolent force of wisdom and power exactly do you petition now with prayer? For what kind of divine entity could allow a naif like yourself to stumble unawares into the unsettling and eternally murderous maw of that bestial, bloody, psychotic monstrousness that is Carnage, and still hear you? For if that God answers prayers, then surely more often than not, the answer shall be, I can't remember what the next line is. No, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And so it's like,
It's Matt
okay,
Fraction
yeah.
trying to be Stan Lee.
Hey, Fraction, why don't you go back to Reddit, you son of a bitch?
He's trying to be a cynical Stan Lee. That's
exactly what I was
yeah.
The Reddit atheist says Stan Lee, and it's just like, that's cool. That's what we need in the world. That's the world we
This
want.
story is actually not in continuity, and by that I mean it's not even in the continuity of the two universes being mashed together. This is one of the few stories you're supposed to read as a joke.
Yeah.
Right. And so anyway, so here he is here. Oh, what did you do? You walked down a blind alley. That was on page 2, dude. And he's like, oh, you're a big dummy, because I've got my Superman signal watch, and then it says it's firmware updating. So
Uh,
keep
the-
shooting.
The best joke, you skipped the best joke because he says Spider-Man and Carnage says, "What are you, a tourist?" it's like the whole joke setup and punchline is that Carnage calls him out for being a tourist.
Yeah, I didn't hear a hyphen, you tourist.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's,
yeah. It's a joke. It's a dark joke, but it's not. This
No.
this is not meant to be taken
This is the
seriously.
dark joke.
So I
What
told
a
you so. Bugle, Pub, Jameson, Spider-Man, both threat and menace. Paper Morin's fallen photo. Tangelo, Maine, tourist.
Tangelo,
Jade
Maine,
Martin.
tourist.
Yeah.
So I'll spend the rest of my career letting everyone know definitively, irrevocably, and for all of time that the special little guy named Jimmy Olsen is the absolute best. Jimmy Olsen is the best in the world.
Do you notice that J. Jonah Jameson calls him J. Bart Olsen? I love that.
James Bartholomew.
I never
Olsen.
picked up on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
zooming through this, I missed that. That is funny.
So this is undeniably funny.
Yeah.
Unquestionable. It is
Oh, I'll
technically, mathematically hilarious. Right?
This
But
is
here
like
is-
this is like an ambush bug.
This is like
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
But this is why Matt Fraction hates me particularly, is because it's so like everyone is out of character, and that's how the jokes work, right? But
Mhm.
Jimmy is not a naif. Jimmy is
Yeah.
not like this
Yeah, I
this
think
doe-eyed,
the earliest
never been to the city
version-
kind of guy, right?
Mhm.
You drew my attention to the fact that Peter Parker's out of character because he's like a womanizer who's actually
And
getting the girls. So that's actually
Everybody is written out of character.
everyone's
and
out of
that's how-
character.
and that's how the jokes work, right? But it's one of those things where it's just like, it's so not in keeping with the rest of the book, which are, we're doing these crossovers, we're playing with these ideas. There's a seriousness to them. There's a love of the lore. Even Priest's take, which I don't necessarily care for, shows a love of comics, right? In the whole way through. So it's one of these things where it's just like everything that I love about comics is the antithesis of what the story does, right? And he's intentionally abusing the ginger kid for laughs, and and it's not lost on me that Carnage is also a ginger,
Right.
but
I didn't know he is.
yeah.
yeah,
Cletus Cassidy is a
Cletus
redhead.
Cassidy.
Oh,
I
I
have
thought
no
you
idea
meant
who he
because
is.
he's red.
No.
No, I
His
mean,
his
Cletus
identity underneath the goo is a redheaded
underneath
guy.
the goo, yeah.
I know nothing about the character except that he's like a more violent Venom. So.
I know
Yeah.
enough that he's another character I'd rather just put through a wood chipper and be done with it forever.
And so that's like one of these things where it's just like it's just like, and that was also the same thing as in Fractions in that we did a couple weeks ago for the Eisners in the Ice Cream Man story, Fraction story, and that was once again that like the normies reading this book, I kind of hate you. I have this big city like dislike of all of you like rubes out there. In fact, my big city elitism is so high that if you're from a different city, you're still like some turd kicking bastard out there.
You're an outsider to New York. You metropolis. You.
Yeah,
I know nothing about Matt Fraction or what your deal is with him, so sorry. This
yeah.
is
Well, and
gonna
I've
be
only
blind.
read a few of his pieces. I've not liked any of them.
I mean, I'm not the
yeah.
the one thing he did do. He's
His
done
wife
some.
is his wife is
Is it Kelly Sue DeConnick?
Kelly Sue DeConnick, and I also dislike her stuff.
Matt's done
although-
a couple Hawkeye things that are very artistic and worthy of Eisner's. That's about the best I can say for it.
And Sue DeConnick is like her dialogue and character development is really good. She's a good writer, but she's an insufferable person.
All right, we got it.
let's keep
We're
going.
moving on.
Okay, I'm going to say, unless someone wants to pause on this, I'm just going to say just a couple of words. This is interesting because it is basically two father figures for our heroes,
Yep.
Uncle Ben and John Kent. and acting in small town heroic ways with no superpowers. This is a good story from a character development standpoint. Having two regular blokes save some lives with just human, just being human and just compassion, but then seeing how that influences the superheroes that will become. Great little piece.
It's set in the time, before Pete was born, before Clark was around. So this is these two men who are not connected to these legacies, who then are the people that will become the people to frame these legacies. It's a really fun story.
Good job, Jeff
Problem
Lemire.
is the artwork is so generic, they have to actually color their word balloons so you know who's talking.
Yeah, I don't know which one is which.
Fair point. That's a fair point. But the story is good.
Yeah, I think the blue ones are Spider-Man and the red ones are Clark.
No, I mean
the other fun thing about
of the characters, which one is which? I don't know.
He's saying artistically, it's hard to tell them.
Yeah,
apart.
It's hard to tell. I think the ball capper is Kent, and Parker is the one without who got stuck.
Okay.
Well, the other thing is fun about this is that the dialogue is Clark and Peter are telling stories about their father figures, but they don't know they met. So this whole thing that's going on is unknown to them, but it still is reframing their conversation about their dads, and that's really fun.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah,
good job, Jeff Lemire. The end of this. Oh no, we can't skip over. There is one more, two more. Bias by Greg Rucka. Hutch, did you say you wanted to say something about this one?
I did want to just say a couple things. Yeah. As it's interesting to have somebody go after J. Jonah Jameson about your coverage of Peter of Spider-Man is unfair, and that's interesting. But this is just like 4 pages of talking heads. And that never makes for a really good comic. It's the kind of thing that we would get submitted at fanzines all the time. It's just, these two characters finally talk about something, and it's like, it's you gotta do some action or something. And the thing that I don't get the last panel. She's walking out. She's walking out with him, and she says, "Should I break it to him?" And it's like, what is she saying? She went to Jameson, to Spider-Man. What is she talking about? I don't even get it.
Well, I think so.
Hanging out and says, perhaps.
I think what's going on is that part of Jameson's issue with these public heroes is that he trusts the ones who are public with their identities, and he doesn't trust secret identities. Yeah. Superman has a secret identity,
right?
But Superman shows his face. He also doesn't like people who are masked.
Right,
and he doesn't like Batman any more than he likes Spider-Man. I thought that's good. That's true to character.
I think the gag here might be that Jameson has, because again, respect. It's usually portrayed he has respect for Clark.
Yeah,
and so Lois is teasing. Oh, should I break it? That actually you're one of the things that Jameson probably hates. Right, she never would, and that's why he says not on your life. So that's the gag. I think that
implies that Jameson is so stupid he's never thought about the fact that Superman is not a person's name.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's the idea that they're closer to each other. It's not that concept. It's the fact that this guy that you ostensibly respect and works as a journalist is someone who's playing on the side that you tend to be suspicious of.
Well, ever since John Byrne revamped Superman, they've tried to make it the point that he does not let people know that he has a secret identity. He tries to put out the idea that he is just always Superman, and Lex Luthor thinks that he's always Superman. And nobody really thinks that he is off sneaking around and walking around as somebody else, and that's part of the reason they aren't looking at Clark and going, I think Superman is dressed like you. It's like, no, Superman is somebody else. He's just always flying around, and
or he's at the fortress.
And the more he has robots flying around, to cover for him, so that it looks like, when he is sleeping, there is somebody flying around that looks like Superman, to keep that going. I'm sorry. I'm just getting into I really wish I'd had a chance to rate Superman. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good stuff. Go ahead.
Don't mind. One thing I do want to say about that story is it made me realize something. The big difference between Marvel and DC here. Jameson actually does portray for us the truth about news media, whereas Lois is an absolute lie.
Yeah.
Jameson is open about his biases, and Lois pretends like she doesn't have them because she's on.
Oh, okay.
on
So
Team
there's
Superman.
there's a bit of an
I would
interesting
rather have
interplay of
seen
integrity.
this story have more of, because Jameson's not a guy who's defensive. I wish I'd seen more of him on the attack to her. That that she's always soft peddling Superman. She's always rah Superman. And how many times has he gone evil? Aren't Kryptonians possibly evil? That's
A little more
that would be-
aggressive.
yeah.
He's a little he's a little circumspect in this.
That's grand. That's grand.
Well, the wrap up here is a brief date between blind date almost between Power Girl and Punisher of all people.
I did not read this at all, so go ahead.
Okay.
Gail Simone puts together a simple story where I believe I think she's being set up with. I think there's a joke here. Is it Paul from
It's
Spider-Man?
Paul from Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
the one who everyone has decided to hate. So she ditches Paul and she ends up going out on the town with Punisher to beat up bad guys.
Who's
And-
Paul?
and
I'm sorry.
so
who's
here's
Paul?
Okay,
Paul is.
Oofda.
How do I explain who Paul?
I'll do it. I can
Okay, go
I can
for
do
it.
it fast. Okay, so
Okay, real quick.
there was a infamous storyline recently where Mary Jane got shunted into basically an alternate universe and with a guy named Paul, and they ended up having a family together. And so they come out of the alternate universe with like 2 kids. And Spider-Man's like, "What, Mary Jane? You have kids with and you're like basically married?" And the fans hated it. They had a very bad reaction, and so I think they started like retconning it like almost immediately. Like the
Okay.
kids aren't real; they're like projections of some kind. And Paul ends up being this I think he ended up being like a jerk, like almost a villainous jerk. So they've spent some time just like everyone hates Paul. In Spider-Man's universe, everyone hates Paul.
Okay.
Right. And so Kara went on a dating app, got hooked up with Paul. They're meeting at this club, but it's like this divey club. There's the Chameleon, there's the Gentleman Ghost, there's
Gentleman Ghost
Catman,
made
there's
me
the
laugh.
Taskmaster.
Yeah.
That are here. And so Kara's just like,
Her name is
bored
Kara?
out of her skull. She just is looking for some way to get out of the thing. And then the Punisher busts in. He's been faking being a bodyguard at this club for a while, because they're involved. It's a criminal hangout, and so he's going to take all these guys down. And so he tells Paul and Kara to get lost, and Kara's Kara, so no. And then they're here to kill Paul because they've all got a hit on Paul. And so Frank and Kara end up fighting all the bad guys, and Paul runs off. And so they end up having a drink, and then they all, go off to Mongolia to have, whatever that they're going to do next. And here's a great line. I've got to read this here. So, what makes you such a prickly pear anyway? Frank says, I lost my family. Kara says, I lost my whole damn planet. You don't see me putting skulls on my chest. He says, oh, nothing. That'd just be a real crime. Oh,
You know what?
oh.
In
And
2026,
then her response,
yeah.
her response is to laugh. And this is, when you grin, it looks like it pains you pretty good, right? Now, here's the thing about this. That joke is like
Yeah.
the most risque joke in this story, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking about this in our group chat. I have such conflicted feelings about this story because like it is in Simone's register. She has this wine aunt, Gilmore Girls, Sex in the City tone that she tells stories in. And it ruins so many stories that she's been involved with, right? But this story, it may be the brevity of it, it is on point here.
Yeah, this is a win.
It fits perfectly. It's the right amount of it. It's not too gaudy. We're not talking about smelly orifices like she was in the second Secret Six series. It wasn't. It's this perfect balance of just enough of that risque thing to kind of it's an adult.
Look, can I put it this way? It's refreshing to see a man and a woman flirt in a superhero comic and not have
Yes.
it be punished.
Yes, and it's
No
and it's,
pun
and it's-
intended.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and the flirting is authentic to the characters, right?
Mhm. Sure.
Like if you're going to let Frank have any relief, because a lot of writers don't let Frank have any kind of relief at all, right? He's just got to be angry all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, they set it up where he's got a serious mission, but Simone
You have a human
allows him
moment?
to
You can-
have
you
a
can-
moment, a human
Yeah.
moment, yes.
But a human moment a gruff man might have. He's not like, oh, I'm gonna go pick daisies and cry. He's just like, hey,
Right.
you're hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's basically it's all he's saying. He says you're a hot chick. Hey, want to have a want to go see where the night takes us. And
Right.
she's like she's Power Girl. She's literally the one with the boob window. She's like, yeah, why not? You're a tough, gruff looking guy. Paul's a wimp and a wuss who wussed out on the date. You know what? Let's do it. And it's like.
Right.
And a man and a woman flirted with each other, and we're not forced to self-flagellate ourselves.
Yeah, and it's funny, but it's not insulting to anybody involved.
Sure.
It was a fun fight, like a beat 'em up, knock 'em up fight. I enjoyed that. I like this whole story, despite myself.
You've been saying that a lot about this comic.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, in 2026, perhaps the reason they might be able to get away with this is because both of these characters are baddies. It's like you can do the whole thing as like, well, they're low lives, so when they flirt with it, it's like
Maybe so. Maybe so. I just like seeing it because it's such a rarity, and the Marvel book actually does do the trope I just mentioned, which is flirting is punishable by punishment, which is what happens in the Lana Lang Gwen Stacy story, I think, in the Marvel book. Two boys dare to flirt with the women, and they get punished for it.
Yeah,
and
that one's very much that cubicle meme. I can't remember the with the right guy flirts. Or
yeah, exactly. Yeah, hello, human resources. Yeah, yeah. But this is refreshing. Attractive man, attractive woman hit on each other, happens in real life.
And it was just the right proportions of Simone's thing, right? Her register. I don't know way I have to say it. She's got a certain like spices that she throws in everything, and she didn't throw too much of it in here. And it was
She didn't have enough room. She didn't have enough room to do it.
It may have been, but yeah, she wrecked Plastic Man with her sauce. She wrecked the Secret Six with her sauce. This was fine. This was enjoyable.
Can I ask before we move on to the Marvel DC? This is the DC Marvel. We're moving on to the Marvel DC, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Will
We're
we
gonna
be Will we be talking about the 76 one at all?
Mostly, yeah. Go ahead.
If not, I just want to point out that was made in 76, right?
Yes.
And the Superman movie came out in 78, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What Lois Lane is climbing a structure and she starts falling off of it, and a hand comes in and grabs it and says, "Easy, miss, I've got you." That's what Christopher Reeve says when he grabs Lois. But it's Spider-Man saying that in 1976. It's freaky.
Because that was it Jerry Conway was the one who
It's
wrote
Jerry
that
Conway,
one.
who
So-
just passed away. Yeah.
Well, it's
Oh,
also
yeah.
Jerry Conway who killed Gwen Stacy, so that's interesting to think about.
So I don't know. Maybe Conway. Did Conway talk to the writers of Superman?
Seems
Donner.
Seems it would be way too soon.
Yeah, I don't know.
Doing that.
Or was
Yeah,
it a
2
thing where that
years.
was sort of the reading material they gave him?
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe the makers of the movie saw this and thought, "Hey, that would be a cool line."
That's a
to
great
have."
line. Let's steal it. Okay.
well,
So we are starting
Okay.
here with Brad Meltzner's
Meltzer.
Meltzer, no N, Our Kryptonite,
Yeah.
which is, it starts in media res. That's one of the things that we were complaining about earlier. It starts right in the middle of the action. We don't know how they got there. We don't know where they are. There's this whole sort of thing. There's a voice that chucks in some kryptonite, and oh, look, it's a pumpkin bomb full of kryptonite. And so then the cave starts collapsing in on them. Oh my gosh, what's going on here? And Superman can't do nothing. So he leaves it up to yet another rubble crushing Spider-Man scene. This one felt really like exploitative of the fans. Right?
It's
Yeah.
okay. I think it would have been.
First
I think it
half
would feel. I think it'd feel. Yeah, sorry. Kurtingus, just if I may. I think I would feel less exploited if this had been set up.
Yeah.
Because in the other story there was a setup and a payoff. This one
Yes.
just jumps into the member berry,
Yes.
and so I think it feels more exploitive, even though it's the same exact reference. And it's just like they didn't give enough space to this one to breathe, to actually have a full story. Because I'm like, the team up is supposed to be, get this, Venom, Lex Luthor, Green Goblin. That's a cool team up. Yes, please. I'd like a comic of this. And they're like, no, you get to see the very end of something that, you know what I mean? It's teasing a story we didn't fully see.
It's not Venom, Green Goblin. It's also Parasite and Rhino and like every character that they could think of in that that wide shot. I looked and I was like, so that makes sense because I think they're using Parasite's abilities because they're talking about like how he's stealing the abilities. I really don't get what's going on with this story. It's just a big excuse for them to be talking and for Spider-Man to be saving Superman for an ungodly long period of time, and then they get out and then it's over.
Yeah, they win very fast after. Once they get out, the having like, this is where I said
I want to know more about what the villains are trying to do.
this is where I said this comic is where it felt more about aura and vibes, because they end up going like, oh hey, we're gonna have a money shot with Superman covered in Venom. Venom covers Superman. So the idea is that Superman is weakened. Now Venom can cover him and take him over. Now
Because
we'll have
that's the
Superman.
secret that we find out is that, first of all, they're broadcasting kryptonite. It's not real kryptonite that he's facing up against. It's some sort of projection, right? And then the whole cave is Venom. That's the big secret here. So the tendrils get around Superman. They swap memories, and they're having they know each other's like brains. And then it explodes, and it's like Superman's covered in venom. Look at that! Oh my gosh, it's even got the Superman logo. Isn't that terrifying?
Yeah.
And
So this is what I'm saying. Like, it's more about like this comic. The Marvel one felt like it was trying to get moments that you could go, oh my goodness, and post them to social media, and not thinking about paying off things in story form. Because the image I like. But how you got there and what you did with it, I don't like as much, because I want to see what as Hutch said, I want to see what led up to this. I want to see more of the consequences of it. They're like, no, don't worry about that. We did the cool money shot. Now we can wrap it up and then do a few more emotional bits with Clark and Peter and call it a day. And I'm like, no, you did not do your job as a storyteller, Meltzer.
Clark and Peter and their mother figures goes on for like 8 pages after the story's over. But the villain fight has no time whatsoever.
Well, and look, and here's the thing is, so Superman is Venom for about 3 pages, and then he and this makes how he gets out makes sense. But look at this, he's just like Heat Vision and Sonic Boom, and it's entirely over. And that's
we win. The good guys are good. We're win. Just play the scene in your head. We didn't have the budget for it.
Yeah.
I hate this. This comic does this move, that thing right there, where it's like, hey, we win because it's time for us to win. Skip it. They do that so many times in this book, and I'm like, stop. That's what made me really feel like, hey, there's a strategy that some comic book writers are doing where they say, I've said this before, but it really plays out here.
And here's the thing that's so frustrating about Meltzer, right?
Okay.
When Meltzer is on, he writes really good stuff. Like a lot of his novels, and some of the comics he's written, super good stuff. But like when he's not on, or when editors don't like put him on, don't like hold him to the grindstone, then you get and it's nothing bad for what it is. It just doesn't belong in this story, right?
Yeah.
All of these mementos and all of this, and like talkie. Oh, let's have dinner. Oh, you made cherry cobbler. And
there's a moment when they are at the grave, and Clark says, you're not, just so you know, you don't do what you do because of guilt. You do it because you were raised by good people to you were raised to be a good person, and I'm like, end it there. That's
Yes.
the end, and it goes on and on in the grave.
Cherry pie
for another 4 pages, and then they go to here and they have dinner for 2 pages, and it's like that was a perfect ending right there. And
then
keeps
they're
going.
like, okay, all of this is happening in New York or Metropolis, and then he's like, I'm going over to my mom and dad's for dinner, and they're like, oh, that's sweet. Can I bring my aunt? And I'm like, so you're just gonna, drive
Kansas?
across the country for dinner?
I wondered that too.
It's 1,500 miles.
Superman just flew them there. I don't know. Like yeah.
I want to talk about this idea of venomed up Superman.
Okay.
Because when I first saw it, I was like, okay, actually, that's a really cool idea. They use kryptonite to weaken him, then get Venom in there. And what's more, scary than Venom controlling Superman?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Should have been scary.
There's one problem I have, though, I realized. Venom's supposed to, feed on your dark side, right? Does Superman have a dark side?
Yeah, yeah. I think you could argue that there's always something that he could do. Not like a super dark side, but aggression. Certainly, he's got some in there.
Well, and that was sort of a later development. It was more that it wasn't so much that Venom fed on your dark side, so much as that Venom was a force multiplier against aggression and hostility and those sort of things, and everybody's got that. So, the one way or another.
I have to say one more thing about what you were saying about Brad is that his writing. It's like he does do great character moments, but you can't have a story that's just a big excuse for a character moment. Especially when you're making a pretty good team up here with an intriguing premise, and it's like you need to have. That's fine, but you need to have a plot that makes sense. And much like Identity Crisis, he doesn't have a plot that makes sense. It's just an excuse for the character bits that you want to do here and there. It's like you want to have a great moment where Robin's dad gets killed. It makes absolutely no sense that the person who hired him to do so did that. It doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever, but that's what you want to happen. So
the story needed to be much better edited because Hutch, as you mentioned, if they spent the panel budget better, cut pages here and there, they could have given more pages to develop more of the actual action. If they'd
or
trimmed,
some setup. Setup,
if they trimmed, because I was just flipping back through it, and there's the character moment.
They go on and on, I think is what he was going to say.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. The character moments go on and on. That whole scene of Spider-Man holding up the rock, which it turns out it doesn't weigh anything if there's no cave. It doesn't make any sense. That actually, I just thought of that. If that's
Are you back
Venom,
with the Twitless?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Go ahead.
Colin had a question. What about Kryptonite? Is Superman having issue with the radiation? Again, in this one, I don't think you're supposed to think too hard about, it's kryptonite or mimicking kryptonite, whatever. It's having the weakening effect on him, even if it's not killing him 100%. That was your reference to Gail Simone.
Yes. You'd have to read the New 52 run of Secret Six to get the fullness of what I'm talking about, but I don't recommend anybody reads the New 52 run of Secret Six. It's a
I did because it brought back Ralph Dibny. I had to.
It did, but it's like reading the Quran. It is to do penance.
Yeah. I'll admit I didn't enjoy anything that didn't have Ralph in it when I was reading that.
Anyway, I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
So we've got a few more stories here. Which one did people want to focus on?
I didn't like anything, and I don't think I liked anything in these. I agreed. Granted, I really sped over these, but nothing looked interesting to me.
So one of the interesting things I thought that they did with this particular story, it's the Spider Noir. It's set in the 30s, and you've got
Golden Age. Yeah, you have Golden Age Superman.
Superman, and it is in the place of that first Superman story. right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah. So,
Superman's trying to get the witness to the killing to stop the person being executed.
although they have to use Silver Age Luthor and not Golden Age Luthor, just so that you'll know who he is. Because if it was Golden Age Luthor, he'd have red hair, and no one would know who he was.
So the Luthor squawks, Jameson walks. It's textually fun, but it is also it's also meaningless. It's just really quick.
There's almost no substance to it. Yeah,
There's almost no substance to it. It's just one of those things where we're like, hey, do you remember that story you read one time? Hey, this is that story.
I will say there's a creative thing they did. One thing I will think is noteworthy is I think you just getting past it because there's only 3 pages. But they do this thing where each of the panels is like a letter of Bang. And the bullet is traveling. Can you scroll to that one? There's at least something artistically noteworthy about
right here.
That one. See, Bang, and Superman's so fast that he's like, this is a very clever. First, this was Dan Slott writing, so whatever. But Marcos Martin did an excellent job with this page. And this is something that's like, yeah, I'm gonna take note of this page because I'm gonna use this later because that's a good comic page. The story itself has almost no substance and it's kind of rough, but that's some real. I almost feel bad for Marcus Martin because that's a portfolio piece right there.
Yeah, that's actually Will Eisner type of crafting. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and even he's nodding on Eisner. Look at this front page.
Oh yeah, like Spirit,
with Spider-Man running across the side of the building.
Also, is no one going to talk about how good a job they did of making this look like an old comic?
Yep. It's also got that Jeff Loeb Superman for All Seasons look to it.
Yeah. No, so this, like I said, this is why I said I ended up making a comment in our chat. I said, seeing what we've read with the Eisners like a week or two ago, I would rather have one of these books nominated for an Eisner because it definitely deserves one of the slots that went to some of the silly nonsense we read.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, a sweaty, soggy gym sock deserves the Eisner Awards more than anything we read that night.
Oh, I don't know about that. I felt good about my vote. Anyway, moving on. This is the one we're talking about where flirting is justifiable reason for assault.
I don't disagree with your sentiment. I do want to say, like, the guys were not flirting with them. They were still being jerks.
Yeah.
They're flirting. They're flirting in a jerk lewd way. They're like, "Oh man,
what do they say?" Because I haven't read it.
They say, "I got some baby oil back in my room. If you want to wrestle it out, because the girls are arguing, and they're like, "Oh, 2 chicks arguing. Oh, that's sexy." And they're like, "Milkshake on your head," and it's like, sure, okay,
that's still a crime, right?
Yeah, 2 guys basically said, "Hey, you 2 chicks are hot." That's like sex, and it's just like, yeah, okay, just that's not. Wow, two young red-blooded men thought that you were sexy. What a crime! I'm just saying that like it was refreshing to see that Frank could notice that Power Girl has breasts that she's clearly kind of displaying and not be punished for it. But Lana Lang and Gwen Stacy are gonna just
bond
assault.
Over their assault.
Yeah, bond over assault because how dare these boys notice that we're hot, attractive New Yorkers.
In this one, they're talking about their boyfriends that they don't know each other and they're just going on about it and like that. They it's also really interesting because Lana knows about Clark being Superman. Gwen does not know about Peter being Spider-Man, and that's within the way it was written. Mm-hmm. So I think it's Stephanie. No, this is Joe Kelly. So kudos to the way the dialogue was written. However, there's lots and lots and lots of words and not a lot of substance other than that. It's interesting character studies, and it ends with them both saying, I think I'm going to marry that guy.
And neither of them do.
And they show up, and neither of them do, right? And so that's one of these things where, like, contextually, I found the ending of this one poignant, even though the reading of it was somewhat annoying.
Right. I think that's, I agree.
If you make it through the story, there's an emotional payoff, but it also was sort of obnoxious to get there.
I can't remember what happened to Lana. Is the joke that the
She
both
married
women
Pete
that
Ross
die-
and then divorced him
No, she doesn't die. She doesn't die. She just doesn't
okay.
end up. She just doesn't end up with
with Clark.
Clark. And in this shared continuity, I don't know if Gwen's gonna die, but she doesn't end up with Peter one way or the other. So
Yeah.
The next story is Jeff Johns taking on way more than he can chew. I am impressed that he tried to cram as much as he does. But he's like, hey, okay, this is a crossover between Superman and Spider-Man, so let me cram in the Legion of Superheroes, like the Avengers, the street level guys of Marvel. Also, let's toss in some JSA representation. Also, let's toss in some X-Men.
Hey kids, do you like comics?
That being said,
It stopped being Superman, Spider-Man.
this is a nod to the 80s Spider-Man and Superman because Superman calming down Hulk happens in that story as well. So there is a nod to that, which is
The
kind of neat.
only moment that I really liked was right here when Captain America and Stargirl are talking about are meeting each other. And he says, "Sir, I mean, Captain, I just wanted to say it's an honor it's an honor my stepdad and you met back in '44. Baron Zemo had us pinned down. Pat Dugan didn't flinch." And like that's the only moment in this story that I really was like, okay, I like this.
So what Jeff does dig deep into both toy boxes, kind of like Mark
Yes.
Waid does, and I think he's trying to out Mark Waid with I know comics, I'm going to put it all on here. The other thing I'll mention that I do kind of like is Thing ends up, Superman inspires Thing to look upon Hulk with some compassion, and Hulk says, I know that you and I have fought a lot, but you know what? How about we share a donut?
Yeah.
Instead.
And
I'm like,
and I wanna
it is Superman who inspires that. I like that. That's a nice
Yeah.
little thing.
Well, and I want to say I want to be clear. I said that's the one thing I liked, right? I didn't dislike the rest of it. It was very,
Okay, yeah.
very rushed. It didn't get the page space that it needed. There was way too much going on with it.
Yeah.
But there were elements of it that I mean, I'm not sorry I read it. I don't want my time back.
Yeah.
But it was a situation where it wasn't as good as it could have been, but I genuinely liked that one panel because those are two of my favorite characters and they intersected in a way that I thought was fun. So
Right. Does anyone want to say anything about Hobgoblin getting like one shot in a fight with Steel?
this one was fun. It was a great Louise Simonson story. The fact that Marvel or DC doesn't hire her to write a monthly for them is a crime.
That's
I
fair.
think because it was Steele, her creation, that she wrote this. Yeah.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
It was perfectly. This is a wonderfully serviceable story. It was just fun. There's nothing profound to say about it. It was just really enjoyable. I
It's,
enjoyed it.
it still had the problem for me of just like it was more. There just wasn't a lot of substance. I'm just like I want more substance here. But it was okay. Again, like you said, I wasn't offended or anything by it.
It was
so
like,
it's
but it was
fine.
like it was 5 or 6 pages. So I mean,
Yeah.
I would have absolutely read a full page comic that had the lead and the setup and the whole thing. I enjoyed that.
Like, I get the similarity between Steel and Thor. I don't really get what Hobgoblin has to do with it.
Oh, he just was a convenient villain.
Yeah, we needed somebody to fight. I guess.
These
And
two were kind
Hobgoblin
of
stealing
tough
technology
on-
is one part of his shtick. So
I have never disliked Supergirl so much as in this comic.
I really
Oh,
disliked this.
I like this one though. Okay, so
Oh,
let me
really?
defend it real
What?
fast.
Really?
I liked this one. Okay.
Well, one thing I before you get onto that, the other thing I
Yeah.
want to point out about the Louise Simonson story is that she wrote all 3 of those characters heavily in the 80s. In the 80s and 90s.
Huh.
So
Including Hobgoblin?
because
Okay,
she
that-
was
that makes sense.
Okay.
she was writing Spider-Man for a little while.
Fair enough.
And so she used Hobgoblin quite a bit.
That
So
tracks.
yeah.
Let me
So
just
that-
let me
anyway,
defend
that's
let me defend Ghost Spider Gwen Stacy, which I'm assuming is probably different than the Gwen Stacy we saw earlier.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of like
Pardon,
some
pardon?
loosey goosey continuity here, but this is this version of Gwen Stacy, Ghost Spider, and Kara Zor-El. Here's why I liked this. In superhero comics in general, there's sometimes a little bit of like them getting too sappy with how they get along. They either hate each other or they love each other, and they won't stop glazing each other. And then when it comes to these crossover comics in particular, there's been so much of just like these characters just, you're the best. No, you're the best. And I was like, you know what? Stephanie Phillips, a woman, recognized the fact that not all women are going to get along, and that they're going to be sometimes catty to each other, especially women who can see in high power positions who might be in competition. And so the fact that these two characters not only didn't get along, but were just catty to each other, I was like, you know what? This is a breath of fresh air to see two superheroines be, they weren't like horrific to each other, but they were just catty a little bit and just like zinger, 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 zinger. We're not going to be best friends. And I was like, every other story I've read in both of these comics, it's almost, I like that Superman and Spider-Man can inspire each other, but it almost crosses that line of just being like, too much, too much of, yeah. And I was like, finally, there was a little bit of like, you suck. No, you suck. I was just like, I kind of liked that. And it would be, in real life, that's what would happen. There'd be a couple of superpowered characters, and one of them might be jealous of the other, and they would.
But here's my problem with it.
Okay.
Right? Is that up until fairly recently, that was not how Kara was ever written.
That's what I was gonna say.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, you had Power Girl was snarky. Supergirl was not. And that's one of the things that's been changed recently, and one of the things that like DC has been trying in the last 7 or 8 years to really do is to make Supergirl like this edgy,
and I wasn't really even thinking about the snarkiness. I actually liked Kara in the Justice League cartoon, but like she's as blind as a bat in order to be as much of a jerk as she is in this comic. Like, she gives her 2 seconds, to analyze her character and makes every assumption in the book.
Who is Spider Ghost? Is that Spider Gwen?
Yes.
Ghost
Spider is Spider Gwen.
Gwen.
Sorry.
And she's from a different universe than the.
Yeah, she's part of the Spider-Verse thing. It's a universe where Peter died instead of Gwen. So Peter became the Lizard. Gwen became Spider-Man. Essentially, she got bitten by the spider. Peter became Lizard, and so like they end up on. It's a different track.
And does she end up having kids with the
Norman Osborn? No.
Norman Osborn?
No.
Even I know about that terrible decision.
So anyway, so I kind of like that one. Maybe we could quibble about how Kara is portrayed. I just the interchange between them. I was like, I'm actually digging this because I'm getting a little tired of just no, you're the best. No, brother, you're the best. No, you're even the best. Come on. It was a nice palate cleanser.
Yeah. I've never met someone so stubborn. I can't even accept help. Can't admit that someone else might know something. I like her.
It's one of the 5 million spider-powered heroes.
That's the voice of the fans crying out to Marvel.
This story is the one that
This is Bendis, right?
This is Bendis.
Yes.
This one and I mentioned the Grant Morrison story and the Deadpool Batman one. This one, there's a cynical take on this. And the cynical take is that there are a couple of stories that you can kind of tell that the author was using the story as an opportunity to pad his or her resume. And it was like, okay, Bendis obviously is going to write, he invented Miles Morales, so he's going to have Miles Morales and Superman have a heart-to-heart where they get to like mutually appreciate each other. And then on top of that, he then gets to add to his resume that he got to epically have them showdown with Dormammu and Brainiac at the same time. In a story that goes nowhere and does nothing.
It's just all words. Nothing happens.
I hated this. This one made me mad.
This was an absolute waste of space.
Hated this. Dormammu and Brainiac is a cool idea, but you didn't do any. There's no story here. It's just, oh hey, we're gonna go fight the end. And
this was definitely not a story.
Now this one, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like this one either.
Yeah, this one was also trash. The only thing that I liked about this story is that it sets up an alternate world in which Thor was killed, and so Jane Foster becomes Thor because Thor is dead. And I'm like,
I didn't
okay,
even
that's a
look
different
at it, I
take
didn't
on it.
see that.
But still, nothing happens other than people talking about it, and it's really boring, and nothing happens. and
Also,
it's
Darkseid
really
shows
boring.
up.
No.
But
But
I
Darkseid
need to
shows
talk
up, but
about-
you wouldn't know it because nothing happens. And it's really boring, and nothing happens.
Oh, something happens, all right. We get what seems like the most flippant, disrespectful way to describe someone I have ever heard. Like, was he actually trying to make a joke here? Because that's what it feels like.
which one?
This line at the end, it's like an immortal, ultimate goddess of, good. It's like, and a cancer patient wielding a hammer.
Yeah. No, that's an intrinsic part of Jason Aaron's
I'm like,
female
what?
Thor one.
Is that what you were
I've
trying to get across?
Jason Aaron is capable of better than this. I've seen it. This is a disappointment.
Written with AI. Okay.
And the last story is kind of a repeat of the stuff we've read in this book, which is Spider-Man being like, "Oh, guilt," and Superman's like, "Hey, inspiration." And I'm like, "We just read that at the beginning with all those character moments."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
this is also not a story, Jeff. look at how much doesn't happen. Nothing happens.
But, like,
Nothing happens.
all of these character moments are done better and done to death at the beginning of this
Actually,
book.
On reviewing this, I have to change my opinion. DC's is better because there are more stories.
Yeah,
There
that's
are
what
a
that's.
couple of
That, do you see
standout
what I mean?
stories in this
Yeah.
thing, but Twitless is right. DC's is better because it actually has at least 2 stories in it.
That was my point. That was my point. I was like, wow, I read the DC one and I actually felt like I got more out of it. This one was not doing as there are some good moments here. I'm not going to deny them. It doesn't do quite as good of a job.
Okay, we went through that one a lot faster because there's so much nothing
Yes,
happening.
yeah.
Are you kidding? I even missed the last bits because, like, at the end, I was just trying to rush through it so quickly. I wanted to get out of here.
Yeah, that
Also,
one.
I was reading through it. I didn't realize that one Thor story was called Symbiotes in Metropolis because it's so much nothing happening in it. I didn't
was
realize the
looking
symbiotes
for-
were the villains.
Yeah, I was like, "Where's the Thor one?" Oh, that's what that's called.
Can I ask a question about these 2 collections?
Yes.
Do you think? I mean, in a couple of these cases, it seems like the writers had a really good idea and might have come to an editor and said, "I have a great idea for what if Jimmy Olsen gets hired and he runs into a Spider-Man. He takes a picture, but J. Jonah Jameson thinks that's Spider-Man, and that would be funny. That would be like a pitch. I could also see an editor just saying, "I'm assigning you this. Come up with something." But some of these, it seems like an editor said these 2 characters would do well together, and then found somebody. I don't know. In some cases, it's the writer who did that, like Louise, Simonson. But I don't know. I mean, do all of these seem inspired? Because a lot of these seem just really forced and terrible and short. And I've had like a few. As much as I don't really know Marvel, I've had a few good ideas. Like that Super Soldier thing that crossed Superman with Captain America.
Yeah.
And I was like, why didn't they team up to fight Mr. Fin Fung Foom, which is a dragon with a little derby that appears every 90 days? I thought that would be cool, but they didn't even use Fin Fang Foom in the joint universe thing. So at
I
least as
can't
far as I can
believe that
tell.
Fin Fang Foom would be allowed to be used nowadays.
Why is that?
Well,
Is it funny, or is it an
it's
Asian
because
thing?
he meets too many stereotypes. It's
See,
the
I
same
have
thing
no
with
idea.
egg foo. With
Oh,
egg
okay.
foo, you just can't have egg foo anymore.
See,
So
I've
you-
no idea about that. I just know that there's a big dragon called Fin Fang Foom. It's like,
Mhm.
so
You can barely get away with the Mandarin. Actually, he's kind
and
of
that's
like
like
just
people
about-
were going on Facebook or Twitter or something the other day talking about race swaps and people complaining about race swaps, and they're like, "You didn't complain about the ancient one." And I'm like, in Doctor Strange, the film, and I'm like,
Right.
Oh,
you
but
think we
people
could
did
do the
complain.
ancient one in a movie in 2018? What are you, crazy?
yeah.
they hired a British lady because they couldn't do the Ancient One.
Oh well,
Same reason they got Ben Kingsley to
literally.
play the Mandarin. They
Uh-huh.
just is.
The thing is, they literally could not because they wanted to sell to China, and China hates Tibet. They wouldn't allow them.
Okay. Well,
there's some.
I didn't mean to get
there's
this
some
totally off the
politics.
rails. I just meant,
No, it's
you know, I was just saying that, you know, I've told you about my idea for having Reed Richards meet Ralph Dibny too. You know, it's that's probably no more than a 4 to 8 pager story anyway. You know, there's really not much you can do with it. But you know, it'd be perfect for this. But I'm not sure that anybody comes to these and says, "Hey, I have a great idea if we're going to cross over DC and Marvel." A lot of this just seems forced.
I will say that I get the impression that some of them it's probably a mix because I don't think there was an editorial mandate to make Power Girl and Punisher together. There's a few of the pairings where it's like that was somebody pitching it. Someone said, "Hey, I like these two characters," and an editor said, "Hey, I like the cut of your jib there. Go ahead and do it. You have 4 pages."
Okay.
Some of them it definitely feels like they approached like, "Hey, Louise, do a reunion tour." Bendis, you know, like you're doing Miles Morales, like. So right. So some of them, I agree with you. Some of them may be forced. Some of them may be pitched. I feel like otherwise you wouldn't have gotten some of these. So I think it's I would lean towards mixed bag.
I would agree with that too. A lot of this feels like the kind of thing that would happen at the BarCon, where people are after SDCC or hanging out and talking about next year's projects and everybody's got a couple of drinks in them and they say, "Oh, that's a great idea. I'll go ahead and do that." That's what that's my theory.
Overall, though, let's get the panel again. Out of these two, what is your overall impression? Yay or nay for reading, and which one do you think was better? I think Reese and I already know the answers on where we stand, but I'm interested in Hutch and Cartoonicus. What are your thoughts?
Don't we all assume we all have the same basic takeaway?
I don't know. You tell me.
I had very little reaction to most of these. Most of them I didn't even want to read. There were a couple that I thought were good. I mean, the Bias one and the Jimmy Olsen meets Carnage seemed inspired pairings, even if the story may or may not have been the best. I think Jimmy Olsen is good for a lot more potential than what they use him for. And I kind of liked what they did with, by the way, just off the beaten path here. What was the story that they did after 52? Countdown. In Countdown, they used Jimmy Olsen and they kept having him like flash back into his past transformations, like when he was a stretchy guy, when he's a spiky guy. It's like all these, he kind of rotates through all of his past transformation type things. I like the idea of a Jimmy Olsen who's got quite a history, and this is almost the opposite. He has no history except that he does have a signal watch, which for some reason is computer software. But anyway,
it's a smartwatch for some reason.
Yeah, well, nowadays it would be a smartwatch, I suppose. That has to be. But yeah, anyway, it was more of a idea of Jimmy Olsen than the actual character, from DC. But it was a cute idea. I liked that one. Most everything else, I really didn't like the Superboy Prime but that's mostly because I don't know how he's used nowadays, and he seems a useless character, quite frankly. But other than that, I didn't really have. I didn't care much for any of the others. There's just they're too Marvel for one thing. I just don't know who these characters are and stuff like that. That's it for me. Go talk to somebody else.
Cartoonicus, what's your final thoughts on this?
They both had similarities in that they both started out with their strongest story and kind of went downhill from there. But whereas DC at worst was meh, Marvel at best was meh.
that's like I said, I it's not too far, not too far from where I'm. I think at the end of the day, I didn't want to come up. I did enjoy both of these. I think overall, I think they would be better Eisner's submissions, honestly, than what the Eisners had. Although that's a low bar. I think some of them, like I said, even in the Marvel, like I said, the Marvel one had that wonderful, beautiful page by Marcus Martin, for example. The story, some of the other stories had good moments to them. I think DC's version was stronger overall, but I will say that if these are a bunch of pitches, I hope that what this leads to is people getting excited about this, how these toys are interacting, and maybe something more comes of it that's longer. Because honestly, some of these I think I would have liked a lot better if they were, longer and had more time to breathe. So
I
some of
totally
the problems here were problems of space, and I'm like, you know what? If you had more space to actually tell a full story, I probably would be probably change my opinion. So I hope that this leads to. I think some of these books are. I think they may be gauging interest. If they sell really well, hey, maybe there's they'll follow the money. So my hope, because I like this idea that we don't have to, because it was mentioned earlier, Jim Tuner mentioned this, that like, Spider-Man, Superman, that's not the natural pairing that he wanted to see, and other people saw it as having issues or whatever. And what I think is interesting is like, getting a Power Girl Punisher story that's over 4 pages. The only way that's going to happen is if someone teases something in a book like this and people respond to it positively, and then they can try it. So I do hope that, because I do like these crossover stories. By the way, they're doing a follow-up to the Sonic one, by the way. I think it's coming out now. We should probably revisit that. But like the idea that we can play with these different sandboxes and toy boxes and have some fun with them, I like that. I think I'd like to see more of it, and I hope that they can get some positive reactions from the good moments that we see in some of these and build on it. And we can get a full one shot of Punisher and and Karen. Like that'd be a fun, at least for a one shot, and then maybe one of them can turn into a mini series, and who knows what fun you can have when you can do stuff like that.
I agree with you, but I don't know that it's going to happen, because the problem as I see it is they're desperate to get this, fanfare of cramming every big name they can possibly get in there to get you to buy a copy. And that means you end up with all these little miniature vignettes and all the problems we've talked about tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I hope that this leads to something more substantive. And I think that the vignettes can hopefully build into something that's like, hey, we should actually try doing more with it. So here's hoping. Reese, you're muted. You've been muted.
I was blowing my nose and forgot about it. I said I was going to say, from the Marvel one, the only thing I want to see more of is that a full issue of it is that Hobgoblin and Steel. I just want to read more Louise Simonson on Steel or on Thor. I just like she should have like an annual or something. They should be giving her more work. That's everything else. It was okay that Mysterio versus Superman featuring the Thing was fine, but it was like I don't need it. It was too short to do what Johns was trying to do, but I don't really want to see what Johns was trying to do. Dan Slott's story was fine, but I mean, if it was any longer, it wouldn't be better. I don't know. And Meltzer's just needed it needed a beginning, but like he had the space to do what he could have done a beginning with all the fluff there is in that one. Yeah. I don't
know. A good editor could have really revised that into something great.
Honestly,
it's okay, but it's really an editor coming back and saying, "Hey, tighten this up, expand this. It could have been a great story.
Yeah.
I didn't
And-
even need a beginning, honestly. You just need a better ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've said before that Brad is capable of writing good comics. So some of his Justice League work was really good, especially the Tornado's Path is a great one. But
and some of his Green Arrow stuff was good too.
yeah,
Anyway,
maybe I haven't read it. Sorry,
I've only read a little bit of it, but I enjoyed what I was.
I honestly didn't know he was still writing comic books.
Maybe he's not. Maybe they brought him back for this special or something. I don't know.
That could be. Maybe he's rusty.
He's
That could
rusty.
be too.
But yeah, that's what an editor's supposed to do, though,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, I've done editing. I know it's just
Mhm.
it's like, listen, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but like Act 2 makes no sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta explain what the hell you're talking about a little better.
You got to have way more action here and here and here.
Yeah, exactly.
Twitless, can you please get yourself hired as an editor at one of these companies?
I'm not sure they can afford us anymore.
So
Seriously, I don't know. I'm honestly surprised that they still do stuff like this, that they're trying to make big sales. But I mean, these companies are so on the edge of folding just because they're major corporations. I mean, they're just kept alive for purposes of other media at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it keeps it easier as long as those corporate entities are existed. It makes it easier to file for copyright and stuff, extensions and stuff.
True.
So,
But yeah, where do you even get this? I don't have a comic shop in my area anymore.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, well, they have Amazon has a subscription service.
yeah.
I recommend getting these. I think they're fun, and I like supporting what they're doing. So
Yeah.
grab them.
This one, yeah. But yeah. So anyway, that's the show for this week. Next week, guys. Next week we are having Scott McCullough back, and I cannot remember his name. There is a fellow who's in the chat last time, and he is a Ryan Maxwell, huge fan of Popeye, huge fan of the Popeye movie from 1980, and has done interviews of tons of the people that worked on the set. So he will be here to talk about stories, and I'll talk about my love of that film. And then Hutch will be here to talk about how he wishes anybody besides Altman had directed it.
I'll explain more. In fact, I will go rewatch.
I'm
I
excited.
will go rewatch that movie again before next week.
Yep.
Because
Oh, I
I
guess
want
so.
to make sure I'm there with all my proper criticisms. I mean,
Yes.
it's
Sounds like a great plan. And so
I'll
until next time, guys, go out there and read some comics, and we'll see you guys around the internet.
read some comics if you can find them.
Read some comics. Yeah, they're out. Bye.
I'm Reese the Comic Man.